Packers 26-10. The Bears, they played a really good first half and then, played a decent, first series against the Packers in that third quarter, but it just can't. All the injuries caught up to the Bears, and it was just with all the injuries, it was hard for the Bears to overcome. They played competitive in the first half, like I said, but you kind of expected it with the Packers coming off an embarrassing loss to the Cowboys last week in Lambeau Field on Thursday night, that the Packers would rebound and kind of do what they did tonight, honestly. But Brandon and I are here. We're gonna break it all down, and we'll discuss everything that's wrong with the Bears right now. But I'm your host, Nicholas Moriano, and tonight I will be accompanied by my fellow Bears brother, Brandon. How are you doing tonight, man?
Ah, I mean, that's really all I've got. It was a disheartening loss, but it is what it is, I guess.
No, I definitely agree with you on that one. And before we go into breaking down this game, I'm just going to address obviously Will. I just want to say thank you to Brandon and Will for bringing me on the show. And after hanging out with you guys last week, we are three brothers bound by our passion for the Bears, but getting to know you guys for about a year now and hanging out with you guys, to me, it's more than just a passion for the Bears that we have together. When one of us has something that's, wrong, it's not only affecting them, it's affecting all of us. And I just want to say thank you to all the fans, all their fans on Facebook and Twitter who just sent so many heartfelt messages to Will and his family, because seeing that my phone's linked up to the account and you guys were blowing up the account all day, and that was amazing to see. Bears fans, honestly, we were very passionate, best fans in the world. Thank you guys so much for doing that. I know it meant a lot to Will. I know it meant a lot to Brandon and I just had to address that before started talking about Bears football. And Will will be back soon, and I know he'll get better. But we miss you, buddy, and hope everything's okay, man. But Brandon, let's before we get into this, I urge you guys, Bears fans, anybody, subscribe to our YouTube channel. As soon as we go live, you're gonna get a notification. You're gonna want to listen to the Bears brothers right after a game, especially a Thursday night blowout against the Packers. But subscribe to our YouTube channel. You get a notification. But hey, Brandon, let's get this going. We'll break down the game and enter our first quarter of the show, which which consists of our opening segments, our most valuable Bears, your stat of the game, my knack or knock of the game. And Brandon, I'm going to kick it over to you to start it off. What is your stat of the game?
There's a couple I could pick from. Either 406 total yards by the Packers, which is just unacceptable compared to our 189 for the whole game, or it could be the Packers' time of possession to ours, 39 minutes and 36 seconds for the Packers to 20 minutes and 24 seconds for the Bears. But I'm going to stick with the time of possession because that is so out of balance. That cannot happen going forward. I don't care who's playing quarterback, who's the running back, who's out for the defense. That is just so unbalanced. It's like ridiculous. So that's going to be my stat of the game.
No, and I mean that was a huge factor into what happened in the game. The Packers offense seemed like I remember tweeting our group me. I'm like, how long is this Packers drive going for? They're still on the field. Like the time of possession was clearly, in one way or the other. It was all Packers, and I mean with the Bears and all their injuries, it's kind of hard to stay on the field. But I will go. You know what, guys? I'm not going to go for a knock. It's easy for me to go for a knock in this game for. Several reasons why, but I'm going to go for a knack. And regardless of how you thought Cravon LeBlanc played, if you go back, he actually stopped 3 touchdowns from happening on that goal line stand. He was one of the first guys who hit the running back in the backfield, and then Freeman came and obviously cleaned it up. He knocked another pass out, and he used his hands pretty well and knocked out another pass. So that's my knack. Even though he got torched most of the day, he still did stop 3 touchdowns from, happening. And this game could have been a lot worse, but the Bears were in it for a while, like we were saying earlier. But that's going to be my knack for the game. And for Will not being here, we're going to go for that monster moment. And I know he would definitely agree with me on this one. It's got to be Leonard Floyd in that strip sack and then recovers it. He's out. He was on the ground at one point, recovers it in the end zone. Honestly, I got out of my seat. I was pumped up, and I'm like, yes, Leonard Floyd, he had a great game this game, but that play, I thought, man, hey, we're in a good position right here. The Bears are, they took the lead, and it was just a huge moment for the defense to get a touchdown because I honestly didn't think the offense was going to score. But, yeah, so that's, I think, a monster moment that Will would probably agree on. And we'll go into our most valuable Bears. Brandon, I'm going to, throw it to you. Who's the guy that you thought was the most valuable out of any of the Bears you could have picked?
I'm going to build off that monster moment. I'm going to give my most valuable Bear to Leonard Floyd because he hasn't been much of a factor yet this season. To see him come up today with the plays that he did, like you said, the strip sack and the fumble recovery for a touchdown, that builds great confidence as a rookie, I would imagine. I thought he played a very, very good game today. He did only have 3 tackles, but he had 2 sacks. But, man, it seemed like every tackle he made was very, very important to the Bears' defense. So he is my most valuable Bear today.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to jump on with the bandwagon with you because we've been waiting to see that from Leonard Floyd. And it just seemed he was very active tonight, and he just was getting in on every, trying to get on every tackle, but he just seemed like he was all over the field. And that moment, man, especially against the Packers to do it to, it's great.
Exactly.
So, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's a great moment to have, and hopefully he can build off of that. I mean, there's not a lot of things to build off of this season. Hopefully he just continues to get better each and every game as the season progresses. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty concise that we are both going to go with Leonard Floyd for our most valuable Bears. And before we go into our second quarter of the show, I have to tell you guys a little bit about SeatGeek. You actually just go and download the app right now, and then you can ask me about it later. My parents actually used it for when they came to visit me for the Iowa versus Northwestern football game. And this is their very first football game, that very first college football game they've ever been to. And they had amazing seats. They told me all about it. And with the Bulls about to be in season next week, the Blackhawks are currently playing. I'm pretty sure the Cubs are going to win this game and hopefully continue on. There's going to be a lot of great games to see, and you're going to want good tickets and good seats to go along with it. And it's a $20 rebate on your first SeatGeek purchase. So, guys, if you want, cheap seats for good prices or good seats for cheap prices, then go ahead and download the SeatGeek app and, try it out because obviously my parents have used it and it's a great app to use. So we're going to enter our second quarter of the show, and this is where we analyze the offensive performance, or really lack thereof, honestly. And we're going to start with our quarterbacks that played today. And I guess we could start with Brian Hoyer. There really wasn't much to see from him and this offense, honestly. Very stagnant offense. Couldn't really get the ball moving very much. Brandon, what do you have for this offense that really didn't do much today?
We talked about in the previous show how they have to get the quote unquote the damn ball to Alshon Jeffrey. Well, they really tried, and Brian Hoyer was 4 for 11 on the day, but he had, I count, 5 incomplete passes to Jeffrey to start the game. So I mean, it's not like they were shying away from him this time. They were trying to get him the ball, which was really nice to see. And then he went down with the injury and broke his arm. So we don't know how long he's going to be out. And poor Matt Barkley, he's being tossed into a huge dumpster fire right now, played against a tough Green Bay defense, and then a very, very much tougher Vikings defense next week. So I have faith in him that he knows the offense, but whether or not he's going to be able to execute it, I mean, that's just a totally different story right now.
Yeah, I mean, and the big thing here is we have no idea how long this Cutler injury is going to last. So you would have to think that the Bears have to bring in somebody, maybe a veteran, just in case, because you don't want to have. I think they were talking on the Thursday
Zach
night.
Miller is your backup.
Yeah, Zach Miller. your starting tight end would have to be your backup quarterback if anything were to happen to Matt Barkley. And God only knows the offense couldn't get any worse if Zach Miller was throwing the football.
And then I guess our third string quarterback could be Cameron Meredith.
Yeah. So would have to think they have to go get somebody.
I would think so. And even if Cutler comes back, I would think him and Barkley are kind of on the same level because Cutler hasn't played in a couple weeks, so he's going to be rusty. So it really depends who you want in there if for some reason Cutler's healthy against Minnesota, because we don't know when he's going to be back.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't matter who's behind center. There's so many flaws in this team that it doesn't really matter. But we just need somebody who's going to be able to throw the ball because I'm not very confident with Zach Miller or Cameron Meredith. But let's go back to Hoyer, and he had the targets to Alshon Jeffrey. I'm thinking, and against a depleted Green Bay secondary, you would think that they would have had more success.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's weird that they didn't because it's not like they were getting much pressure on Hoyer, but still there was, I don't know whether it was Jeffrey not getting open on these guys that are not on his level, but I found that really weird that Hoyer and Jeffrey weren't able to make that connection for, the limited amount of time that they were actually in the game.
I agree. It was like we said in the previous show, both cornerbacks that could possibly face him are not on his level, like you just said. And the first couple passes looked like accuracy issues from Hoyer. Maybe he was just nervous playing his first Bears-Packers rivalry game. But then after that, like, they should have been completed passes to a degree, No,
definitely. I definitely agree with you. So, I mean, that's something that the Bears need to obviously address because you need to get Alshon Jeffrey the ball. But we'll talk about the receivers in a bit. We'll go to the running backs with, Jordan Howard and Kadeem Carey. I liked what I saw out of Carey today, and being the president of the Kadeem Carey fan club, he is a guy that once he gets the ball, he hits the hole really quick. It's a lot different from Howard, where he kind of is a patient runner, waits for the holes to open up. Where Carey, he just kind of hits it, and there were a couple runs where he's gaining some good yards, but in the end, that Packers defense, once they stopped the Bears, offensive run game, they became one-dimensional. But I saw some good things out of Carey. The Bears offensive line didn't really create many holes for either of these running backs, but what did you see out of there, Brandon?
It was very tough for both running backs to going after Kyle Long went out too. Did you notice that?
I did, yes.
With his arm injury. So, I mean, Carey had 10 carries for 48 yards, one of them going for 24 yards, and Howard had 7 carries for 22 yards, one of them going for 11 yards. So really they just had one big run play apiece that really carried the running game. But like you said, Carey hits the hole hard. That's what a lot of people have said about him. And like I said on the TV broadcast, Carey's not necessarily fast. He's more quick. And we've seen that when he hits the holes, and he was able to carry a couple guys with him on a couple of those runs. which is nice to see that he's able to put his head down and keep going, kind of like what we've seen from him last year. But it was nice to see him come back and continue doing that, something we didn't see from Langford when he was playing so much. And we know Jordan Howard can do it. He just had a really hard time getting past the line. He was waiting for the hole to open up, and it never opened up because it's a very good Packers run defense today.
Yeah, and the Bears were also without Josh Sinn, so that's obviously going to, create problems with creating holes in the run game. My question for you is, where do you see Jeremy Langford whenever he gets healthy? Where do you see him fitting in with this running back committee? Because we have Howard, who's had a couple good games, carries, coming up little by little. Then you have Jeremy Langford, and it's going to be interesting to me, at least, whenever he does become healthy, how they're going to, have all these running backs in and out of the lineup and try to utilize each one of them, get them into a rhythm when they do start playing.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how they try and do it. I think Fox is going to stick with the hot hand, whether it be Howard, Carey, or Langford. I mean, they obviously have to get Langford some carries to determine if he's going to have a hot hand. But since this offensive line's been playing more together, it looks like they've gelled and meshed really well, minus Sitton and kind of long going out today. But even Bobby Massey had one play on Howard where he just kind of quit blocking his defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the next play, he was up there at the linebacker level, creating another hole. So at least he was able to correct his mistake on the next one and get some of those yards back. But what I think it all comes down to who's going to have the hot hand when the offensive line is back healthy.
Gotcha. No, I completely agree with you on that one.
I don't see there's any being one guy that stands out more than the other right now.
No, yeah, they're kind of on this level, and I mean, it's not a level that you really want to be on because this offense really hasn't done much. So, yeah, hopefully they get that situated. We'll talk about the wide receivers now and the, Zach Miller, tight end. What'd you see out of Alshon Jeffrey, Cameron Meredith, and who else was out there? Josh Bellamy. Yeah, Deontay Thompson was also out there. The Bears, honestly, if a guy gets injured, there's not a lot of depth at that position. You have to think that at some point, maybe we see Daniel Braverman, because watching these guys, I'm like, man, if Bellamy goes down, there's no one really behind there, with Deontay Thompson being the only guy right now. And they didn't do much today because obviously none of the offense did much today. But what did you see out of the wide receiver group?
No, that's exactly right. Nobody did much today. We talked about them trying to get the ball to Alshon. Guess how many times he was targeted today?
I want to say like 10.
11.
Oh,
you know how many catches he had? 3.
Yeah.
That has got to change. He's a bigger guy than the rest of the corners he was going up against today. They have to be able to get him the ball in certain situations. I know I wasn't so hard on it when they lost to Indianapolis, when they didn't get him the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But for crying out loud, now I am totally on this bandwagon. 11 targets and only 3 receptions. Like, they tried to get him the ball and he's just not catching it. Like, that has to change going forward. And whether that's quarterback play or Alshon, like, there has to be a better connection between the two at the position.
No, I definitely agree with you. And my concern is with Alshon Jeffrey being franchise tag this year, and he still doesn't have his touchdown. He's not even getting the ball in his hands. He's being targeted. He got targeted today, 3 catches, like you said. I don't see him coming back. And if he doesn't come back, what is this offense, honestly? We can't even establish a quarterback right now. Running backs, we're going to see with a hot hand. There's just no consistency. There's no identity, no consistency.
I believe I brought it up, or you brought it up, or Will brought it up at some point earlier in the season, that there's no identity. This offense has been stagnant. And we even seen it last week at Jacksonville, or at home when they played Jacksonville. They put up, 16 points, but still not enough to win, apparently, against a subpar Jacksonville team. See, like, it's just frustrating at this point. There's no identity. There's no solid cornerstone. Not even Josh Sitton, Cody Whitehair, I would have to say, is the cornerstone for this offense.
Yeah, no, Cody, our alignment, Cody Whitehair.
And he played a good game today.
He did. He definitely did. And, if Kyle Long's healthy, but I don't know, maybe it goes up now to Dowell Loggins in this offense, because it's not good, you guys. I'm going to be completely honest. It is just, obviously, that we're 1-6 right now. And it's just,
the weird thing is about this offense, they can get the yards, but then
it just stops.
There's no points.
There's no points.
Like the offense just vanishes.
I think
so weird. It's very rare that you see that, because they were talking about on TV broadcast. They're like 7th in the league in yards, but like almost dead last in total points.
31st. It's
Something about that
astounding.
isn't right.
No, yeah, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, all Chicago fans know this, the struggles on offense and the frustrating play that we've seen for years now, but this year is just it's on a whole other level where it's seventh in
Frankly,
yards and
frankly, it's not
31st.
even fair to blame Jake Cutler or Brian Hoyer or even Matt Barkley at this point, because if they can't decide on a running back and if we can't have healthy receivers, it makes sense that there's no points in the end zone.
You know, it's just a bad season, you guys. Let's just it's just a bad season. But let's move on from the wide receivers and for the lack of production that they had today. The whole offense. Again, the whole offense. This is the whole offense, not the wide receivers, just the whole entire offense. But we'll talk about the offensive line, who were, they were down with Josh Sitton. And then I don't know when Kyle Long exactly left the game, but they made apparent that he did. Just
I
can't
believe
remember
it was
when it
on
happened.
the Hoyer sack where he broke his arm.
Oh, geez. So we got messed up. One play
laid out
really
on
messed
that
up
play.
this offense. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But early on they really couldn't open up running lanes. I thought Hoyer had time to throw, or Barkley and Hoyer kind of.
They did
But
have. I thought they had plenty of time to throw in certain situations, like we've seen against Jacksonville and Indy, where they are throwing short of the sticks. Like they had plenty of time to throw for those routes, but once you get in desperation time, when you're down 26-10, they're
yeah,
kind
it's
of running out
just.
of time to make any deep plays.
And then they got one dimensional. They're forced to throw. The Packers are just going to keep dropping guys back. But yeah, the O line, honestly, they with Ted Larson having to go in there, Eric Kush having to go in there, just didn't really get the job done. But again, you guys, it was the entire offense, not just the O line. But so Brandon, if you had this is going to be one of the toughest questions of the night. What did they do well? And I'll give you time. I'll take a stab at this first because I'm trying to think if they did do anything well. But I'm gonna throw it to you first.
Okay, well, what they do well? They
uh,
they did things well. They hit guys in stride occasionally. It wasn't
Occasionally, yeah.
consistent enough. They had a nice pass to Josh Bellamy over the middle. They had Zach Miller in stride a couple times late in the game for his 2 receptions. One of them was a fumble, and I thought that was totally outrageous by Mike McCarthy to challenge that fumble.
Oh yeah,
But I mean that adds to the rivalry, so like I get it. But like, come on, man.
Yeah, seriously, that one really pissed me. Well, actually,
Exactly.
the entire officiating, to me, maybe being a Bears fan, I thought it was a little biased. I thought the Green Bay was getting a lot of calls. I saw multiple times. Well, we'll get to the defense where Floyd was getting held and there wasn't a flag. If Rodgers wanted a flag, you believe he got his flag because it's Aaron Rodgers.
The one flag that got me was towards the end of the game, when I believe it was Ripkowski who ran through the middle, and Rodgers is saying, "Hey, throw the flag," and the guy on the line judge who's blocked by a couple guys throws the flag. Like how can he make that call?
Once
I don't like to blame officiating in a loss because like I feel that's kind of unfair. Like the team should have to be able to avoid that. But when the Bears have, let's see, I believe they had 10 penalties for the day. Yes, they had 10 penalties for 108 yards. Like that falls mostly on the team. I don't care if the refs are biased or not, because Green Bay also had 9 penalties for the day.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
And I mean, with that, if you're a quarterback who's been playing in the league for a long time, has had success, you automatically get those calls. If Jay Cutler were to ask for that call, or any of the Bears quarterbacks right now were to ask for that call and that face mask, no way would have gotten it. I mean, that's just how it goes.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. That's another thing that we can get into. But so what would you say that they have to work on for the entire offense? Really, what would you say they have to work on for next week? I mean, I would say everything, but I mean, specifically, if you can go in depth, and maybe one thing that would help if they got better at this, then maybe that translates to other things.
Everything I think is a very good answer. But it just goes back to fundamentals. I didn't count how many offensive penalties they had. I know there was the one driver, they were 3rd and 9, and they ended up going back to 3rd and 29 because of a delay of game, and there was one other penalty. Like, you have got to start by fixing penalties. This team has all of a sudden become undisciplined. This is something that we talked about in the preview show again. They have got to stay disciplined on both sides of the ball. I understand a lot of those penalty yards were on the defense. We'll get to that later. But then what I always like to preach is games are won and lost in the trenches. And whether or not you have all 5 stars in there that are going to mesh, you have to be able to do your job. And that can open up running lanes on the inside if the line's getting a good push. That's going to help create a good pass pro. But the offensive line has to start to be able to mesh and gel again, even if Kyle Long and Josh Sitton aren't going to play next week. You've got to get those guys in sync with each other so that way Matt Barkley or Zach Miller or Cameron Meredith, whoever we have playing quarterback next week, can be able to at least have the chance to create a play. So I would say you have to start there and work your way out. I think that is how good teams are built, and you've got to go back to the basics when you're 1-6.
And it starts with the coaching, which is weird because if there are penalty issues, you expect the coaching to fix that. And with guys coming in, you expect coaches to have that next man up, be prepared to play. And we preached before, the start of the season that, John Fox likes to turn teams around in his second year. And we've already questioned the, Dow Loggins, his coaching. John Fox is a guy who right now I don't really trust him as much as I did, before the season starts. I like Vic Fangio, but this coaching staff, if we're still seeing these penalties happen week in and week out, that's a coaching thing. That's what and the next guy up, that is a coaching thing, and that needs to be addressed. And if they go 1-15, best believe someone's getting fired. I don't care who it is. Someone's going to get fired.
I know it's hard nowadays. We like to have things like this, right here, right now. But patience has to be a key for Bears fans right now, because I believe that things will turn around. This is Ryan Pace and John Fox's second year. This isn't fully their team, even though they're working on trying to dump out guys from the last 2 regimes. And whether that means Jay Cutler and Alshon Jeffrey have to go as well, then so be it. If that means it's going to turn the culture around, I mean, I know that's kind of on edge to say, but the Bears need a spark of something. And I thought maybe Matt Barkley coming in would be that spark. To be honest, they need a change somewhere to help turn this thing around. And Matt Barkley couldn't do it today, but maybe he does it against Minnesota. I don't know.
Oh, against that defense, we'll have to wait and see.
That may be a stretch too, but
it might be a stretch. So let's get into our third quarter of the show, Brandon, where we talk about this Bears defense. And we'll start with the defensive line. And like we said earlier in the show, they really kept the Bears in the game. And I thought at first that this Bears front seven and, D-line did a good job at containing runs and was able to get to Aaron Rodgers, not necessarily sack him, but get him outside the pocket. And, even though he torched us today, to me, he wasn't as accurate as he could have been, because there are years past where we've seen Aaron Rodgers go outside the pocket and just completely tear us apart. Today, it was because of a depleted secondary. We had injuries all over the field, but, I thought the defense did a really good job that first half. And, obviously the start of the third quarter, but defensive line, I thought they did a good job, like I said, for the first half. But then as, the defense was asked to be out there for such a long time, they eventually got tired, eventually got worn out. Injuries, caught up to them. And, Aaron Rodgers was able to do what he normally does. What do you think about the defensive line?
I thought the defensive line played pretty well for the most part. Like we said in the preview show, I keep referencing it because I think we're right. You said that Vic Fangio likes to drop guys back against Aaron Rodgers, and they did that. They only rushed 4, only sent in LeBlanc a couple times, and it worked because in the first half, Rodgers really had nowhere to throw. They didn't score a touchdown. It was 6-3 at halftime. And I thought that was great. I thought the defense was here ready to play. They had a great goal line stand early in the game. I was like, all right, this is getting me pumped. I'm ready to go, Like,
oh, yeah.
That was right there with you. I love to see. And then they had the strip sack fumble Floyd did for the touchdown. And I was like, perfect. We're up 10-6. We don't have much of an offense right now. So points on the defensive side, we
mandatory.
And then they gave up the 30-yard rush to Ty Montgomery
the
very next play. And then just all the air got let out of the tires, and that was pretty much it for the Bears defense for the rest of the day.
Yeah, no, honestly, right after that 30-yard rush by Montgomery, it kind of just went downhill from there. But, I don't blame the defense for this loss at all because they were asked to be out there for such a long time
And
with
the offense didn't help that.
the offense did not help that whatsoever. And the defense was doing its job minus so many guys in and out of the lineup. I was trying to count in when Tracy Porter was in, when Jacoby Glenn was in, and then who was switching in and out because I just didn't know who was healthy or who was ready to go. But we'll talk about the linebackers. I saw Jarrell Freeman and Danny Trevathan make some huge hits out there. The one where Jarrell Freeman made a huge hit, I think there was a penalty on the play though. But just those kind of plays.
The one where he hit the running back where he was going out for that short dump off route.
Yes, it was. Yes, yeah. See, those plays get me pumped up, and they get a defense pumped up. But like you said, I mean, it's just all caught up to them. I mean, we can't just point it on like the linebackers being the fault. It was the entire defense just being out there for so long. But I mean, we can only say so much about one position group, the linebackers. Do you have any more insight on how they played today?
Freeman played well. He had 13 total tackles. Trevathan had 6 on the day. We already brought up Leonard Floyd with the strip sack, fumble, touchdown recovery, all in one play. That was great to see. Monster moment of the game. And Sam Acho played pretty well too for the most part. He had a nice batted pass, and he had the opportunity to pick it off because it hit the lineman laying on the ground, and he was just a little too slow to go down there and get it. And his celebration kind of made me laugh. But I thought he played pretty well too for the most part. And like I said, you can only say so much about one group when they're asked to be out there for so long, but I thought they held their own for the most part. I was kind of disappointed in Willie Young though. He had 1 tackle for the day. Like that's got to change. And we didn't see any Pernell McPhee either. Like he was activated today, but he doesn't have a tackle in the stat sheet.
Yeah,
those
he was
2 guys limited. That we need. I didn't see McPhee out there a whole lot. But those are 2 guys that we need to step up in a game like this when we're getting dominated. Like those are the 2 guys that I'm expecting to see out there on the field to try and create a sack or another turnover. I mean, Leonard Floyd could do it, obviously, because he did it in this game. But we need someone more than the rookie to step up and be able to create turnovers and get the offense back on the field.
Yeah, you would like to see your veteran guys go and do this. Willie Young, he's been in the division forever. Now he played with Detroit earlier. He should know better. And he went offsides on one of the hard counts from Aaron Rodgers. Yep. He should know better than that. He's played this guy for years now. And then, Pernell McPhee, I don't really he had limited time. He was just activated today. I think he's going to get better as the season goes on if he stays healthy. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Brandon, that out of your 2 veteran pass rushers, you expect a lot more from them. And if they can actually get it going, and if Leonard Floyd builds off of this game, hey, those are some decent pass rushers. But again, we need to see more
too. I mean, I think that's why he only had 1 tackle, because there's essentially no help all year with him.
Exactly.
So Leonard Floyd coming in and making an impact today, I think will help Willie Young open up his game a little bit more, because now you have at least 2 guys that could possibly create sacks and get constant pressure on the quarterback.
So maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel, you guys, as we go throughout the season. But let's talk about the secondary, because with the injuries that the Bears had to face with the guys that were back there, again, the first half they did great. And then right after you said that 30-yard run by Montgomery, things just started to fall apart. Guys were not able to stay on their guy. And the main guy who had a really tough time today was Devontae Bosby. For me, I don't know how many pass interferences or flags that were called against him, but he seemed to struggle. He eventually was taken out. I know Jacoby Glenn took his place, but
and even he struggled at that point.
Yeah, too. Exactly. So these corners, and even Tracy Porter did too. So it's a real concern.
That miscommunication on the wide open Devontae Adams touchdown. Oh, that was such a killer.
That was bad. And you saw before the play that Tracy Porter did like a cross with his hands, and Harold Jones-Cortez just, I guess, didn't hear it, was too late, and obviously they both go for the out route, and what is it,
Devontae
Devontae
Adams bought some
Adams.
real estate there in the middle of the end zone.
Yeah, he was so wide open. That was a killer because had the Bears stopped them there, that would have been huge. And
Yeah.
Harold Jones Corte would have been in perfect position, but that secondary needs to get its chemistry going, needs to be able to rely on that next man because these guys are going to get injured. We've seen it. Bryce Callahan has shown that he's a little injury prone. Tracy Porter, we don't know how long he's going to stay healthy for. Kyle Fuller is like non-existent. I don't even know where he's at right now. So the only guy that has consistently been out there has been Adrian Amos right now. Yeah. And with the depleted secondary, we need these backup guys to be able to play big minutes for the Bears because if we're going to have more Devontae Bosby-like performances, it's already going to be a longer year than it already is for the Bears. For
the most part, though, in the second half, I wasn't so disappointed in their ability to cover for as long as they were out there. I was disappointed in their ability to tackle. There were so many arm tackles that were just missed by Bosby and LeBlanc and Jacoby Glenn. It was just like, come on, we could have had these guys stopped about 6 yards back. It would have at least been 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1, whatever the situation is, because they're just running 10-yard comeback routes and making the first guy miss and getting the first down. Those guys are just able to wrap up a little bit better, then I would at least